The work, Councillor Alvin, we're in business.
Okay, Town Clerk, if you could read out the usual.
Yeah.
Well, you have done, haven't you?
Yes, I've just done it just before I pressed record, just so members of the group were aware.
Yes.
So item 1 is apologies for absence. I haven't had any.
Okay, then we'll record absentees as unapproved.
Okay, thanks for that.
Could you just check Councillor Rome tells me she's trying to get in, but if you could have just keep an eye on it.
She's not showing on my screen. She isn't a member of this committee.
No, but as a member of the public.
Yeah, but she's not showing up yet.
Okay.
I'll keep a look out. There is an audio signal for me to keep a look out if anybody's trying to join.
Okay.
I shall be vigilant.
Yeah, just okay. Item 2.
Declarations of interest. Oh, sorry, Councillor Gaddis is with us now.
I have no declarations, Chuck Clark.
Again?
I have no declarations.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Rome joining us as well. I'm just frantically making some notes here. This is there. So we've got Councillor Pearson, Councillor Heron and Councillor Rome in attendance tonight. So we'll just touch on item 2 there, declarations of interest. Any others at all? None by the looks of it. Thanks. Item 3 is public participation. Councillor Elvin, do you want to take a view on?
I propose the usual 15 minutes, subject to as a maximum, unless it's anything really pressing. If you want to open it up, are there any members of the public wishing to participate?
Councillor Rome has a hand signal raised.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Rome.
Evening, thank you for letting me speak. Just one point, I would like to ask the committee to consider asking applicants, I'm talking about point 4 here, the Community Grant Award, to accompany their application with a statement describing their organisation's structure and turnover. I raised this point because there was something happened a few months ago where we had a multi-million-pound turnover organisation applying for a grant, and I was heavily criticised for asking for more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public? In that case, Town Clerk, can we move on then to item 4?
Yeah, this is a review of the Community Grant Award Scheme. Members will have had this paper in advance. Would you like me to bring it on screen?
I don't need it. Does anybody else need it? Can you raise your hand if you do? Otherwise, it'll save the clerk some time.
I'm fine.
Everybody's fine. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. You need to. I think we've all got it in front of us.
Right. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Just to introduce this report very briefly, the current Community Grant Award Scheme policy and application process were agreed back in May 2019, and there've been a number of discussions and comments made when applications are being considered either at Finance Committee or at full council. And this report just reflects some of those and open for discussion.
I think the first thing we need to look at is the time scale for the submission of applications. Anybody like to pass a comment on that? Councillor Hopper.
Thank you, Chair. Now, I was just when I was reviewing the documentation, I understood. I think it was Councillor Sinnott when she was on the council. She was on about, you know, we should be able to accept applications pretty much every month, you know. And I'm sort of I took that on board, and I think really barring preparing for the budget, we should be open to applications from April through to January, and then obviously if we end up running out of money in May, June or something like that, then we can send out a pretty standard form to say the application is open again in April. So yeah, I think easier access, a lot more regular access, but obviously if the money runs out sooner, then a standard letter saying we'll keep the application on file so that they don't have to fill another application in. Please let us know on Wednesday. When do we start the new budget? Is it April? Is it?
The first is a rule.
Right. Well, maybe April the 2nd. I don't know. So, but yeah. So easily accessible and yeah, no real cut-offs apart from January 31st. So that would be. I don't know. Do you want to discuss it? But that would be a proposal from me.
Yeah, I just want to bring the clerk in. I think it's a good idea. Clerk, are we happy with the 31st of January being the cut-off point with getting the budget prepared? You said it was previously it was June and November, but we understood the reasons why you did that, because that's what all the big organisations do. And the main councils, but are we okay with the date in January as a cut-off point so that we can prepare the budget?
Just thinking this through, you put me on the spot here. Obviously, the 31st of January is after the January meeting where the budget is agreed.
Right.
The original purpose of the November cut-off point was to actually include into the following year's budget forecast any amounts which we knew were potentially going to be committed if the applications were valid.
Yep.
So I think there is some flexibility to either abolish or extend that deadline. I'm just thinking as well, to have a cut-off, even if it was the January meeting, I think you need a review process in, because we could be in a situation where in February, March, we do have spare funding availability, and to say that January is the final cut-off point means that that money wouldn't then be able to be used. So I think my suggestion would be, having heard Councillor Hopper's views, is that yes, you have some more flexibility and either accept applications on a monthly or a quarterly basis, but when you get to January, you make a decision based on what you know at that stage.
Yeah, I think that's
you could be
very
out
good.
of money, or you could be in surplus for the allocation.
Yeah, a bit like we've done this year. We've we've said, okay, well, we've got X left in the kitty. We won't carry that forward into next year's budget at this moment in time. We will leave that to run, and then if there's anything left the 31st of March, then we will carry that forward to the next year. Yeah, which is what we did this year.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor. I mean, my other comment is that 2020 was an exceptional year, but we have exercised some flexibility in relaxing the deadlines in any case, and that's always the potential option for council to consider, should it so wish.
Yeah. Well, I think if we, with the unless anybody else wants to come in, I think with the modification to what Councillor Hopper said, I'd certainly like to second that we go to the sort of monthly applications, and then it's reviewed in January to see whether we can carry it on or not.
Yeah.
So is that the gist of what you said, Councillor Hopper?
Yeah.
Yes,
I agree with that.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it was just to make it more accessible, really.
Okay.
So yes.
So okay, rather than me second, did you want to second it, Councillor Heron?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. But as far as the large organisations coming in, quite often we get national companies that come in to do a scheme, and they sometimes come to the town council for an enhancement. Susterans is a good one for that. The cycle byways and highways. But there is others that come in from time to time for big grants, and I would suggest that we leave the grants as it stands now. I think we altered them just a few months ago because Councillor Rome asked for that. But I believe that the national bodies and large organisations that come in to do schemes nationally should be allowed to apply for to enhance the work that they're getting national funding for.
Yep, Councillor Heron, we're not actually discussing that point at the moment. That's going to come in the later points that we're going to discuss. At the moment, we're just concerned with the not who can apply, but when they can apply. So the proposal is that that it basically goes to monthly. So there's not having the two points that we previously had, and with a review in January.
Yep.
Any other observations before I ask for a vote?
Agreed.
Okay, could you all indicate? Well, if you're in agreement, raise your hand.
Councillor Dodds?
Agree.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
That's everyone.
Okay. Then the next point I think we need to consider from the documentation that the clerk has prepared is the introduction of eligibility criterion relating to the financial position of an applicant organisation, which is a little bit of what Councillor Heron touched on, and what also Councillor Rome touched on. Has anybody got a contribution I want to make on that point before I say anything? Councillor Harper?
Yeah, yes. I would like to give priority to the smaller local groups. Don't discount the larger groups, but they're just to give priority to the smaller groups. I think they're the ones that really benefit. Like say earlier when we give it to the Hetton Football Club, it's like it seems like a sink or swim. That £500, and I would feel a lot better using the money for something like that rather than the bigger scheme. I'm not saying discount the bigger schemes. I'm just saying priority. That's all. I'd actually wrote something down, but I don't know. So the priority would be given to small groups and organisations that are in need of specific funds for a project. An organisation with significant financial strength, that's why I was laughing before when somebody mentioned that, may also be considered, but it's more of a second tier. So anyway, that's all I've got to say on that. Sorry.
Yeah, Councillor Waterson.
Thank you, Chair. I totally agree with Councillor Hopper's remarks, but I just wonder how you would actually put that into practice. How would you monitor that? How would you, I do see where you come from, Councillor Hopper, and I think that is a genuine remark to make, to help the smaller groups. But I don't know how I don't know how that would work. How would we facilitate that?
Well,
you couldn't knock back at one group because you were waiting for smaller groups.
No. I know. I see your point, but I tell you what, I actually thought of compiling a database of the smaller groups, like the football club, and sort of just basically trying to promote it through the Facebook page and the website. We can't really go much further than that other than share it on our own Facebook pages. And if we've got that, if we've got a list, then it's quite simple to see. At the moment, I'm only aware of maybe about 10 groups that have applied for funding. There must be a lot more groups, worthy causes in need of different things, but we need to get them onto a list. And if we get them onto a list, we can then send an email out and we can just say there is funding available should you need anything.
Yeah, I think that's coming on the next point about how we promote it. Just looking about this, could I suggest, I think it's an excellent suggestion. I was going to suggest that when we come to review the application form, we put on there that where possible, the applicant should provide a balance sheet of their organisation, where they actually stand financially. At the moment, we don't see the bank statements. The clerk sees that they are legitimate, but we actually have no idea what financial standing any of these applicants have. And obviously, if we ask for a financial position, financial statement, so to speak, then we would see if somebody had 4 million quid in the bank or whatever it was. You know what I mean? And it would overcome, I think, the obstacle that Councillor Waterson introduced.
I mean,
I think at the moment we're just saying that as a policy, we would prefer to give it to the smaller organisations, and I think we can look at ways of doing that ourselves. There's no, we can't put a criteria in there and say a turnover of less than 1,000 or less than 10,000. It's just a statement of fact. We want to give the money to smaller organisations. Yeah.
I mean, it should come in on the criteria that's set, and obviously we will give local first. But like I'm saying, some of the big organisations there, they'll come in and they want to do an enhancement. Susterans, I think the last one we did was Susterans a few years ago when they were working over Pittington and Moseley for the cycle tracks across there, and they came in and they did that, but they did some enhancement work as well, which we gave a small grant towards. But there is other organisations like Springboard, Groundworks. They've got quite big balances, but at the same time they might have just getting a big grant in. I mean, the clerk looks at the bank statements to clear that.
Yes.
Because I don't want to say other companies' bank balances in case they fall into the wrong hands, obviously. And the clerk is the ideal person that we need to do that. But certainly, I would say we'll take it on the criteria when it comes in, as it happens.
I think Councillor Dodds wants to come in. Is that correct?
It is. Thank you, Chair. I think making it more difficult and producing bank balances and stuff like that will discourage the smaller groups from asking because of the amount of information they've got to provide. And it'll be easier for the larger groups with the better financial position to be able to do that than the smaller groups who were looking to fund and were wanting for them to apply. So the more difficult and the more information we're wanting, the more it'll discourage the smaller groups, I think. And that's the groups that we're wanting to support more.
Councillor Waterson? You're on mute, Councillor Waterson.
Sorry, Chair, thank you. I'm starting to get a little bit confused here. I thought we already had, the criteria did include giving you bank details.
It does, Councillor Waterson, it gives you bank details, but we don't know what they have in the bank. We have no idea.
So,
all we know is that they have a bank account with something in it. That's all we know.
So is that against any data protection or anything? If we ask for a bank balance, surely that's quite a crucial piece of information to gauge whether you're going to give these groups a financial assistance.
Well, I would have thought so. And let's face it, if you apply for a natural, say a lottery grant, you have to have the absolute drains up. You have to provide them every single piece of financial information you've got. So, and also to some of the bigger council organisations.
I would have thought it's not. I'm not against giving to like a larger group.
No, none of us are.
No, I would have thought that to ask that simple question, how much do you have in your bank? What's your bank balance? I actually thought we did. There you go. I thought we did ask that question, but never mind. I think another point I would quickly like to make, if you don't mind, is why don't we just continue to advertise on social media and through the Hetton Town Council Facebook page that there are grants available, and be active in doing that. And if any local groups are looking for funding, they'll pick up on it. Just get it out there. I think that's all as much as we have to do.
Yeah, that's further down on the agenda to talk about to talk about how we can publicise it. So, but I think we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. So I think, yes, Town Clerk.
If I could just throw a couple of things in here, just in response to Councillor Waterson's query. Yes, we do get bank statements, but the bank statement is only a requirement to demonstrate that it's a bona fide organisation. So yes, I know how much is in the bank accounts, but the current policy doesn't determine that any grant is made pro rata or on a ratio basis or anything like that. If that's
I don't think anybody is proposing that, Town Clerk. I mean, Councillor Heron's left the room now, but I do seem to recall that when I said on the Finance Committee, when there was a previous administration, we actually used to see the bank sheet, the actual bank statements. I don't know, our policy has not been to do that, but I'm certain we did. And I would have thought that if the committee wished to request it, I don't think it would have been unreasonable, as Councillor Waterson suggested. Councillor Hopper.
Why don't we put a clause in there just to say that if we're in doubt, rather than the meeting, request them to come in and give just a basic presentation. We're not asking for a PowerPoint or whatever. It's just, you know, what's the funds for? And just ask a couple of questions. Not a grilling. It's not a grilling. I mean, we could even, I was going to use the term knock up a sheet of questions, but they're, and give them the questions beforehand and say, look, these are the type of questions that you get asked.
Yeah, Councillor Hopper, that again is under point 3 of the discussion.
All right then.
Yeah, so if we can get back to the original thing about whether, as I say, to prioritise smaller groups, and if necessary, request, you know, the bank position from any organisation. Councillor Geddes wants to come in, I think, and then possibly Councillor Dodds, if I
think 2 or 3 years ago, and I wouldn't class the culture of Hetton, which obviously Councillor Wharton was part of as well, as being a large group. But I recall culture of Hetton putting in for, I think from a Hetton Town Council point of view, £5,000 was quite a large sum. But I do recall having to go in and sit in front of, I think Councillor Heron was one of them. I can't remember John Price, and I can't remember the other one. But we had to go in and show our bank statements. We had to go in and give an overview of where we were and how we got there. And I don't think that was too oppressive. You know, I mean, obviously, if you're in a group like that, you know what your financial situation is and what have you. And it's, you know, it's no more than a 15 to 30 minute talk. You know, I think that's fine.
Yeah, I would concur with that. Councillor Dodds?
Yeah, I'm more or less concurring with the general feel of things. Keep it the same for the smaller groups, but ask for further details from the larger groups and a possible attendance for us to discuss things further. Yeah,
that's saying that's that's under point 3 with possible attendance. But I think we're all seeing from the hymn sheet. So could we have the proposal, Town Clerk?
Sorry to come back on this. I understand entirely the sentiment, but how will council demarcate between a small organisation and a larger organisation?
As I said earlier, I think that'll be up for the committee to make a decision. We can't suddenly say if your turnover is more than £500, you're a large organisation. But I think we could put a figure on it. It's just to exercise common sense, and I think, you know, that's what parish councils generally do. You know, we're not a big organisation. We're not giving away millions. You know, we just have to exercise our common sense. Councillor Dodds, do you want to come in again?
Sorry, no, I'm just agreeing with you.
Thank you, Councillor Dodds. So could we just tie this up with the proposal then? Could I maybe suggested that we prioritise, it is the policy of Hetton Town Council, we prioritise the smaller groups. Carry on, Councillor Harper, from what you're on your sheet.
It's only rough mind, it'll need polishing up. Priority be given to smaller groups and organisations that are in need of specific funds for a project. An organisation with significant financial strength may also be considered, but maybe has to give attend a meeting for a presentation. Yeah.
I think just if you put just will also be considered, because we're going to talk about
Okay.
attendance at meetings
Yeah.
and under point 3. So just to say we're not excluding larger organisations,
Yeah.
that we would like to prioritise the smaller ones. So if that's a proposal from Councillor Hopper, could I have a seconder? Councillor Waterson, could I go down and votes around the screen? Councillor Waterson, you in favour? Councillor Heron?
I prefer it left the way it is, because we already deal with those in that manner. Thank you, Chair.
So is it a yes, no, or abstain? We have a proposal, we have a second. You can either make an amendment to the motion, or you can agree to it, disagree to it, or abstain.
I disagree with it.
Okay, Councillor Hopper? Beg pardon, was that? I assume it was agreed as you proposed it, but I can't hear you. Councillor Dodds?
We're not really changing anything, are we? It's just rephrasing the wording, so yeah.
Okay, and Councillor Geddes?
Yeah.
And I agree. So we all agree with one objection. The next, if you could knock that up into a sensible words, Town Clerk, we'd be very grateful. I'm sure you will. The next point of consideration from the document, the working document the clerk has proposed is, under the current arrangements, members are only able to consider application based on the information given on a written application, and there's no scope to seek further details. And I think what we're saying is that the council can, if it wishes, ask organisations to come in, provide further details or a presentation to the committee, which is what Councillor Geddes said he had to do. And indeed, when I served on the Finance Committee under the previous administration, I sat in on meetings where people came in and did a presentation. I personally think that would be not an onerous task for any organisation, be it big or small. Any comments on that? Councillor Waterson.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned about these presentations. It can be to the small little football team run by, a mother or someone like that, to come in and do a presentation can seem a little bit, maybe a little bit off-putting. I'm not sure.
Councillor Waterson, I think not, we're saying it's not compulsory. We're saying may ask.
Ask.
And I think it's highly unlikely that you would, as Councillor Geddes said, when it's a large sum or something special, then the committee would have to use its discretion as to, or if there was insufficient information on the written form. If some councillors said, well, I really would like to know more information about this, then you could ask them to come in and have a chat.
Come in for a chat and a cup of coffee. That's
exactly.
Right. I'm just a little bit fearful that we don't want to frighten any of these small groups off that are just run by young people by just coming in and do a representation, a presentation or something like that. It can be a little off-putting. So
the idea we occasionally did it was basically we made it as comfortable for them as we actually could. Yeah. There wasn't an interrogation in there.
Get away, Councillor Heron.
I know that when young Councillor Geddes came, there was no interrogation.
Okay, one at a time. Okay, Councillor Dodds, you want to come in?
Yeah, I think if we just put a footnote, just saying there may be a scope to seek further details from the applicants.
Yeah.
Just like a footnote or something like that.
I'll just say, we may just may wish to ask the applicant to come in to provide some additional details. So I'd like to propose that goes in with the policy, that we, put that phraseology in. Would anybody like to second that motion? Yes, Councillor Hopper. All right, I'll just go and go for the
Second.
voting on it then if there's no amendments. So Councillor Waterson,
Agreed, yes, agreed.
Councillor Heron, Councillor Hopper,
Agreed.
Councillor Geddes,
Yes, agree.
Councillor Dodds.
Yep, agreed.
I agree, so that's unanimous. Thank you. And the last point is what has been touched on. Well, no, it's not the last, but one point, to be honest. Steps to promote the scheme and encourage take-up. I think we've covered this before. All we could do, I think, really is to push it out on social media, on our website, and each councillor should take it upon himself to let groups that they are associated with know that there are funds available from Hetton Town Council, and offer them with the assistance they can in filling the forms in. I know that's what I've done in the past. I've told people about it, and I'd say, well, I'll point you in the right direction how to fill the forms in, but I can't see at the moment we can do anything else, because unless anybody else has got some suggestions.
I would agree with that. I sit on the wind farm, which is done by Durham Community Foundation. They're the overseers of the funds from the assets from the electric storage of them. And I would like to say if we could advertise that one, because we get very few from Hetton applying for that. We usually sit a couple of times a year when funds become available. And again, you can get quite a sizable amount out of that wind fund if you're doing quite a big project that the town council might not be able to fund, but it could be pointed to the Durham Community Foundation wind farm. Thanks, Chair.
I think it would be very useful if you could provide the town clerk with information on that, Councillor Heron, because I was sort of under the impression that nothing was available to us. So that sounds like real good news, both for the council and for good causes in the area.
The thing is, the two wind farms are separate companies, and they're only a field apart, but they're in two separate fields, with a little bit road between them. So the one community body that deals with both of those is Durham Community Foundation. Could well have been not Tyne and Weir Foundation, but it's Durham Community Foundation now.
Well, on behalf of the committee, could I ask you to provide the clerk with all the details, and hopefully the clerk could then produce a small paper for us for this upcoming meeting, so we all know where we stand, then we can publicise it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Heron. But on the other points I raised, is there anything else that anybody can think of to raise public awareness? Councillor Hopper, then the clerk wants to speak.
No, sorry, I think I've missed the boat. The point I wanted to make actually was and I think it was to the previous point, was itemization of items.
No, that you can bring that on to the next point, Councillor Hopper.
Oh, can I?
Yeah,
very good.
I'll jog your memory when we come to it.
I need more than jogging, I tell you.
Town clerk.
There was two things. First of all, I think Councillor Dodd wishes to come in again.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Dodds. Did you want to come in again? Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. I did a short Facebook reminder to everybody in just in the last month, and that has generated those applications for the grant this month. So I do feel using Facebook is quite useful, and maybe if we promote it at least once a quarter on the town council Facebook page, because it does seem to get a lot of views and get put out there into the community.
Yes, excellent. I think it's a very good suggestion. Okay, then moving on to the last point on this paper produced by the clerk is the review of the application form. So, yes, town clerk.
Sorry, not to take anything away from anything the members want to contribute. I was keen to have that aspect put on. There are just some, for want of a better phrase, housekeeping aspects. I mean, one which was apparent this time was that 2 of the applications came in with computer-generated signatures, which is unacceptable. And I had to go back to the applicants to provide a wet signature, albeit because of COVID scanned. So there are some minor amendments just to and clarifications of the form that I would like to include, that being one of them. And it was really, from my perspective, on the practical completion. And also another thing that's happened is that applicants have provided supplementary information. My view is that the information needs to be included on the application form, not in the form of two appendices and emails.
I think they're both good suggestions, unless anybody objects. I think you can mark those down for inclusion. Councillor Heron, you want to say something? Just agreeing, are you? Great news. Now, Councillor Hopper, you can bring your point now. I think that you wanted to make. You can introduce it in the.
Thank you very much.
On the application form.
You're getting as good as Des O'Connor for giving us me lines.
Hang on, let me pull the strings.
So I was, when I was looking at some of the applications, some of them are really put together well, and others, I'm not going to identify which ones. I sort of struggle to get to grips with. I don't think it's too much to ask to provide us with, say, like the football strips, for example. It was all itemised out, and I just looked at it. It was easy to calculate. You knew where it was going to, and like sort of everything was there. And I think there was another one for benches. Great, no problem. It's like a tick box exercise. You say, right, okay. And I would like to see something on the application form: items required, cost, and then we can, or even where they're getting them from the supply, just so that we can. It's not about the interrogation. The more information we have, the less people have to come in for a presentation. But at least we can all feel comfortable knowing that we're actually agreeing to give other people's money out. This is not our money that we're giving away. Well, I suppose it is. £15 a year of my money is probably going in there somewhere. But you see my point. It's other people's money.
I would agree with that, because under the last part on the form, Town Clerk, it says tell about the proposed project, initiative or activity. I think we should include, as Councillor Harper said, something there which says, tell us what it's going to be spent on. Because as Councillor Harper said, a couple of them were very explicit, and it was just, great. We can see where the money's going. And I'm not just picking on anybody, but just looking at the one for the East Rainton Community Group, I have absolutely no idea what they're going to spend the money on. I mean, it could be organising fish and chip suppers for a month or something to get people in. It doesn't actually say what they're going to spend the money on. And I really think I would agree with Councillor Hopper that we should say, can you tell us what you're spending the money on? Because it is, as he says, it's public money, and we need to be careful and be seen to be giving it to people who are going to spend it in the public interest. So I would agree that should be somehow included. Most people do, to be fair. Most people do, but the occasion one doesn't, and it would be nice if we could get it in advance, so we don't have to say, well, we refuse this because we don't know what the money is being spent on, and then ask them to resubmit. Town Clerk, have you got an observation on that? Oh, sorry, I think Councillor Dodds wants to come in. You do, Councillor Dodds?
Yeah, instead of just having total cost, have itemised stroke total cost.
Yeah.
And an additional section for additional information, which the group may feel would enhance their application. Yeah,
that's exactly what we're saying. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Councillor Geddes.
Yeah, on the East Rainton Community Group, unless I'm mistaken, it's got to support the establishment of Green Fingers Environmental Group.
Yes, that's it. Doesn't say a lot.
Well, it's obviously planting the flowers around the village, isn't it?
We would assume that.
I would assume.
Is it though? It might
think
be a
that's what-
cut-out parlour.
That's what we did assume, but you know, it would have been too early at this late stage to kick it out, so it went through. But I think you know, this is a case in point. So could we all agree that we need to add that in, that it should give us an indication of how the money is going to be spent? Any
Yes.
dissent on that view?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So town clerk, have you got all those? You got your couple of amendments to the application form and the one suggested by Councillor Hopper and myself.
Oh, well, I've got the recording, so I'll be relying very
Okay,
heavily upon
good.
it.
Itemised.
Yes, I mean, yeah, certainly you've got the spirit and some of the specifics there.
Good.
The form, as I say, does need some enhancement, and I think it's through experience that we've come to the position that town councils are now to have the review, and I think it's time to do that. And certainly, I've just had a quick look at it there while you've been talking about it. Certainly, there is scope to ask people to be more specific. It is quite generalised.
Yeah.
I think the only query I've got is, and again, somebody commented that some of the applications are, if you like, better put together than others.
Yep.
In those cases where some are weaker, if I can use that phrase, do they get rejected? You know, what happens? I can make the form clearer, or take steps to make the form as clear as possible, but some people read what they want to read.
You don't, worst case scenario, you've got to reject something.
Yeah, I would think that if you can knock up a new form and make it clearer and better, because the other one is a little bit Mickey Mouse, as you say. But I think we should agree that if the clerk feels something's missing, for instance, in this one that we've just talked about, then they should go back and say, you know, it's incomplete. Could we have some more details? Otherwise, it's like, you know, the committee is likely to come and ask you for it. So to expedite it, send me in some extra details, which I know the committee will want, so that it goes through first time.
We're asking the clerk to give a bit of coaching to some of the people who haven't filled forms in before.
Yeah. Or your local councillor. Yeah. Okay, I think that's covered that all. Yeah, great. Can we move on then to item 5, which is the risk assessment. Now, the town clerk has done, in my opinion, an excellent piece of work. He's consulted all of the necessary bodies in putting this together. Sure, you've all read it. If you, I don't need to ask the clerk to put it on screen, because there are 2, 4, 6, 8, about 10 pages of it. It's a very detailed document, and unless anybody has any amendments they wish to make to it, as I say, I've read it in depth and I really can't see anything wrong with it. Would anybody like to comment on it before I propose that it's adopted?
It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
So no comments, then I propose that this document that the clerk has prepared is adopted as our new risk management strategy.
Second.
Do I have a seconder? David Geddes. Go around the screen quickly. For those in favour or against, Bob, Councillor Heron. Yeah, Hopper, Councillor Geddes, Councillor Waterson, Councillor Dodds.
That's fine, yeah.
And I agree as well. And can I thank the clerk for what is a truly excellent piece of work, and it must have taken him quite some considerable time to put that together. And on behalf of the committee, and the council, can I thank him for that? Did you want to say something, or do you just want to take a bow?
Yes, just very briefly. You jumped in sharp there, my Councillor Elvin, because I was going to introduce it and give it a big build-up. Just to provide, I mean, I appreciate that document's been approved, and I assume the appendix as well, which is the detailed part of how it pertains particularly to Hetton Town Council. It was really just to explain to members that this builds upon the first risk assessment that was presented last year. And again, it's a live document. What I would like to try and do for 2021 is bring the document forward a little bit in the municipal year. But this does form part of the external audit process, and say we're in March now, and I assume the recommendations from this evening will hopefully be approved on Monday evening. But it's one of these documents which needs to be approved on an annual basis to meet the external audit requirements. That's it. I'm done there.
Super. Well done. I think you need to talk on the asset register, don't you? Point 6.
Yes, it's just to say that unfortunately the asset register isn't available this evening. I've still got a few inquiries to make for that. So I'd like to suggest to committee that it's deferred, and the vigilant amongst you will have seen that I've included on the agenda for Monday's full council. And I hope that tomorrow I can just fill in the 1 or 2 gaps remaining in it.
Any dissent to that? All in favour? Yeah. Very good. Item 7, the proposed flag poles to Easington Lane War Memorial. Do you have an update?
Yes, I do.
Graham?
I do. It's an 11th hour update. I notified the City Council a little while ago of the specific locations for the 2 flag poles, and I asked if it would be possible to get a license to put them there. I've had to do a little bit of chasing up, and I did get an email a couple of weeks ago to say that they would provide me with some more details, and I've had that come in yesterday, and I've had a follow-on query which I've looked at this evening. It's a little bit complicated because the people I've been speaking to on highways are waiting for a view from development management, which is planning whether or not they can go ahead. But so there are 2 component parts here which go hand in hand. One is highways are waiting for planning to say that yes, it's in order, and if it is in order, we then have to apply for what's called a Section 50 permit. Now that was a new one on me. In Section 50, I understand, is a permit which allows bodies other than the Highways Authority to put stuff on the highway. So although we've had a quotation from the flagpole provider, which I think we agreed was acceptable, we're not in a position to go ahead and place an order because there are a couple of outstanding issues with the City Council. Now, I'll press for some more information, and if it's in order with committee, I'll liaise with Councillor Elvin over that.
Okay.
There's a little bit of work to do. And whilst the flagpoles in the mini park were relatively straightforward in terms of permissions, the Easington Lane site is a little more complicated. If I can keep the chairman informed and then report back.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. If we can get them to get the skates on, that would be great. Item 8, it's a slightly, the clerk got my wording slightly wrong, but I'll talk to it. The Easington Lane War Memorial and the celebrations. I didn't want to talk about the celebrations because I think that's the remit of the entertainment committee, the events and entertainment. They will, I'm sure, bring forward plans to what they would like to see happen on behalf of the town council. My concern was that I think the council should be making approaches to the Sunderland City Council to see what can be done towards renovating the memorial. You know, people will know that some of the clock faces, the glass is missing. We need to find out if that's going to be, and I think it should be renovated and repaired in time for the celebrations. So that's where I was coming from when I asked this item to be put on. Councillor Waterson.
I think, thank you, Chair, but I think even that, the comments you've just made there, shouldn't they really be taken on by the events committee as well?
Well, yes, fine. I just thought, whichever, as long as somebody gets it done, because I think it's a very important occasion, but we need to, obviously there needs to be an event, I would hope anyway. That's entirely, as I say, the clerk admitted it, he got my wording wrong. I didn't want to appear to be treading on anybody's toes. It's just that my concern was coming about what's going to be done about getting the actual monument renovated and restored to its normal glory.
I think that would be, yes, thanks, Chair. I think we did mention that. I think Councillor Geddes had actually looked into, looking to get the cenotaph repaired, doing some repairs on the clock face and such like. But I do think that should come in with the events committee when we decide you know, what's
Yeah,
going to go
whatever,
ahead.
as long
Yeah.
as, I don't wish to tread on anybody's toes, but, tempers fugit, and, I would assume that it's owned by the council. It would be, to get them, rocking and rolling sooner rather than later and making financial contributions to getting it restored. But if we want to hand this over to your committee, I'm more than happy to do that. Councillor Guinness.
Yeah, if I recall at the Cenotaph for Remembrance Day, we had a brief look at some of the things, but
We did.
I also recall Councillor Blackburn saying something about he was looking to do something for that particular area anyway. He didn't elaborate on it, but I know he did go to pains to say that he was trying to do something. From that point of view, it would be nice to have a word with Councillor Blackburn or whoever, just to say what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, could we just make a decision who's going to chase it up? And I think, it would be good for the clerk or somebody to start talking to Sunderland City Council, because it looked, when you and I looked at it, David, looked to be quite a bit of work needed spending on it to get it up to scratch, didn't it?
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, the marbles, and there's other things wrong with it,
yeah.
but I don't want, I think there should be a liaison between, Sunderland Council and Hetton Town Council to say what is planned, if anything, and if we can do it. I'm happy for Graham to do it, or I'll do it with Councillor Blackburn and the City Council.
What do you think it would be appropriate for the clerk to write and say it's happening, and then he can report back to your committee or this committee or the main council body, just to get the ball rolling? Otherwise, we're going to be running out of time.
Totally agree.
So yes, Councillor Waterson.
Right. I mean, this may be off the wall, I don't know, but should we not consider some of the groups at Easington Lane who really do have taken the memorial to heart and feel as if it's, it's part of their, it doesn't obviously belong to them, but they've taken possession of it in a way. There's a lot of groups, there's a lot of groups up there, and I wouldn't like to think we were stepping on anybody's toe, even to encourage them to be part of the discussion of what they would like to see done, just as a courtesy. I think we need to make sure we're not treading on any toes, and they're happy, with whatever, anything we do.
Well, you've got the Fellowship of Churches and ELCAP.
Well, that's what I was thinking of, Councillor Geddes. I think they need to be involved actively in whatever we do.
No problem with that.
Well, would it be in order for somebody to organise a meeting with these people and to see if there are ways forward to making sure something is done? So we don't want to tread on anybody's toes, but if we don't leave it to the last minute, we don't know what
I can pass the details on to Graham because I know that the individuals involved. That's not a problem.
Well, shall we leave it to you, Councillor Geddes, Councillor Waterson, to liaise with the clerk and get the ball rolling?
Yeah,
not a problem.
I think we just need to get the ball rolling. That's all.
Yeah,
I'll second that. Give them more work.
Yeah, as I say, I wasn't trying to set anybody's toes. I just wanted to, try and ensure that, as a town council, we made our contribution, towards the celebrations. Okay. Before I say anything on item 9, I'd like the town clerk to give some background, please.
Okay. This has its roots in previous discussions of Management and Policy Committee, where there were concerns expressed about litter principally and fly tip and all this sort of stuff, and what could be done. And it was suggested that appropriate signage be put up throughout Hetton and district, and that this committee would have to identify some locations. Now, I can't, off the top of my head, remember when this dialogue first started. I think
it was the September meeting to help your memory.
I thought it was possibly October, but it was September. And I did speak to the City Council to request details of what signage might be available. And this dialogue has continued for some time. And it was shortly before Christmas that it became live again. And I've had to press on a number of occasions for details of the signage that's available. Now, what's happened is that, just trying to get the timescales right, in February I had dialogue with an officer in the marketing and communications department who sent me the campaign materials, which I've circulated to members. And I've had this probably since towards the end of February, and the officer I was dealing with said, "Oh, the environmental team are in Hetton this Thursday." That was the end of February. "What locations do you want the stuff to go on?" I said, "Oh no, you're a bit quick off the mark. I'll need to bring it to committee just to get the identifying sites." And what happened was, a couple of days later, I picked up on from one of the community Facebook sites that posters had already been displayed. I think it was the last week in February. And when I went back to Sunderland to say, what's happening here, they said, "Well, we haven't done anything." And it would appear that the marketing communications unit, who are leading on the campaign, haven't initiated anything. But I think it's the Coalfields neighbourhood team have. Hence the display of a range of publicity over the last, I think it was on the 27th of February or something. So I've got these campaign materials, and I've been pressing to say to the City Council, "Can you just confirm which locations have been displayed at?" And I'm waiting for that information coming. So tonight, committee has a range of campaign materials in front of them to discuss the merits or otherwise of, and potentially identify any sites over and above where the Coalfields team have been out.
So I had my hand up before Councillor Watterson. So
You did actually. It was, to be fair, Councillor Hopper had his hand up first, and then followed by Councillor Watterson.
Ladies before gentlemen, Mr. Hopper.
Okay, Councillor Watterson, Councillor Hopper has deferred to you. Off you go.
Well, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hopper. That's very generous, or very gentlemanly. I'm going to go first because obviously I'm going to be rather negative on this whole scheme, and I can't sit here and take part in what's something I don't agree with. I think the signage is a total waste of money. I don't like the signage. I don't like the language that they've used, and I don't think that it's necessary to have them splattered all over this area. They're held on by cable ties. I've seen them. They've been ripped off and thrown on the ground. They're up the country park. I'm up the country park twice a day, and I've gone up there, and they're not doing making a blind bit of difference. I mean, I'm really angry about this, so you'll have to bear with me. I do apologise if I go on, but I'm really angry about it. I've cleared up broken glass underneath the actual signs themselves. And as I say, I've seen them ripped up and put into the lake. The people who are doing the littering and allowing the dogs to foul the park are not going to read the signs anyway. And as far as I'm concerned, signage like this, it's disgusting, the language they've used. I don't think you could go anywhere in the country and see, "Don't be a tosser, pick up your," I'm not going to even repeat it. I don't think there's any need for language like that. It may be amusing to some, it isn't to me. If we have visitors coming up to this area and they see that, I'm sorry. I don't think it doesn't promote my hometown. I think they've totally missed the point. If you're putting signage up, it has to be enforced. I haven't seen any signs of that either. I go up twice a day. Nothing have I seen of wardens or anything else. So I don't like the way they've taken it. I know signage has a place. It could be stickers that are plastered on the way they did them onto the bins that can't be ripped off. And then these ripped off signs are adding to the environmental situation we've got. They're no good. They're useless. It's just, it's as much use as a chocolate fire guard. That's my point, and I'm going to stick to it.
Well, no, it's absolutely true. I think if I could just remind everybody, the actual motion, it says, what it said was, following a proposal by Councillor Elvin, seconded by Councillor Hopper, committee resolved unanimously to recommend the Town Council hang on, wrong one. Hang on. To ask on the City Council, I was looking for, I lost the wording now. Basically, to what they could do to assist us with signage, primarily at the entrance and exits to the
That's-
the town, and in the main shopping area. And it was just asking them what they had available for us and how we could progress this. And that was the actual. Sorry, I've got it here. The approach made to STC to discover the provision of anti-litter signage throughout the district and an initial focus on retail areas and HTC boundary and entry points. I think, well, okay, Councillor Hopper.
Thank you very much, Chair. Quality and the use of words. So somebody at Sunderland City Council has given a task to a 12-year-old and said, if you were going to throw litter on the floor, what words would appeal to you? I can only assume that maybe whoever's been leading the campaign has actually maybe gone home and with the kids being in lockdown, got them to design it. I don't know. I don't really want to insult the whole team, but whoever's made the final decision needs to really take it back. Now, when I go into Durham and you see the brown signs with the white writing on, you know, the heritage signs, you know, could somebody not come up with a green sign with white writing on, keep Hetton tidy?
Just has to be, yeah.
In metal with Jubilee clips under the lampposts and the posts so that they can't be ripped up. Yeah. So that was
Okay.
It was really just the quality and the wording that really, really bothered me. And you know, when you're talking about who they're actually appealing to, they'll be laughing at that.
Yeah.
Laughing at it. Yeah, so
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're all going to sing from the same hymn sheet. Councillor Heron, do you want to come in quickly on this?
Thanks, Chair. Just to say, over the years, I've seen many things, and this is a new one as well. But I'm pleased now that somebody's actually ratified what feeding the birds means. It means feeding the rats.
Yeah.
And it's finally happened that somebody's putting it out there to the public. Chuck your bread down, and the rats will come and eat it, and we'll get multiplications of them.
Yeah.
But as far as the signs is concerned, we've got to try everything new. We're not getting into the schools now the way they used to, particularly, you know, because of the COVID. But at the same time, we still got to keep the litter going. You know, it's one of these things where you just keep trying, and you pick on the people like us who will pick it up after ourselves and take it home. Yeah. We're basically trying to get on somebody's conscience who hasn't got what. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Dodds. Councillor Dodds.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I've got to agree with Councillor Waterston on this one. I think they're poor quality signs, and they are they're not lasting very long at all. And they are. I've been across Country Park, and I've got to admit I've seen a few on the ground, and I've had to pick them up and put them in the bins because you can't put them up again once they're falling down. If they are going to put signage up, then, you know, spend a little bit more money and put a bit more quality on.
Yeah.
With regards to the enforcement agents, that have seen one round the Country Park, and I just want to know what the frequency is of them and how often they're going to be attending.
Can I speak?
One is
after Councillor Dodds to answer our question.
Go ahead.
Let Councillor Dodds finish first. Put your hand up, Councillor Harper.
Finish what you were saying, Councillor Dodds.
Put your hand up when you can come in next. Councillor Dodds, carry on.
Yeah, I was just wondering if anybody knew what the frequency was of them attending.
I think Councillor Hopper wants to come in and answer that if you're finished.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. Sorry for jumping in. Apologies, Councillor Dodds. So yesterday morning, I spoke to the enforcement. I've been given a red herring. Sorry, Michael Frazier, who's head of the litter picking, had given me this lady's number, and she's heading the enforcement team. So it's no longer about education, it's about enforcement. And if I got it right, they've got 2 vans that just started in September. They've got 2 vans that cover the whole of Sunderland. She agreed, like when I said, really, 2 vans? It isn't enough, but it is a start. But what she was saying about the regularity and like how it, so basically they are reacting to reports, and they will go and spend 1 hour, say in Hetton, say 10 o'clock on Monday morning. She says there is no real timetable at the minute, so they'll do 1 hour in Hetton, then they'll go to Horton, then they'll jump off over to Red House or wherever. So it's about an hour at a time. I asked Victoria, I can't remember her second name, I asked Victoria if she thought the scheme was successful. I can't remember the exact answer, but it was like sort of like we didn't go into the details of like, oh yes, we've managed to catch 20 people or re-educate 30. So with the time scale, so about an hour, and she says they aim to do it every week. So
okay, could I try and draw this together? I think the consensus would be that we didn't get what we asked for. We asked if SCC would discuss with us the provision of possible anti-litter signs and what have you, so that we could come to an agreement with them what we would like to see and whether there was going to be, how it would be funded. And they've just seemed to have gone on for whatever reason, thought, oh, that's a good idea, you know, I don't know why, and done it, but they didn't do as we asked. They never spoke to us, which is always seems to be the way. We come up with an idea and then, you know, we just ask for a consultation and they don't do it. So I think we should go back to them saying, you know, well, thanks very much. You know, anything's better than nothing, but can we please have this consultation? And we can tell you what we would like to see. You know, consultation is a two-way chat, isn't it? And then we can bring our ideas, such as Council Waterson and everybody else's ideas, into the mix and hopefully then come up with something that we think is appropriate for our area. Any comments on that observation?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Councillor Geddes?
Yeah. Well, yes, Chair.
Yes, Councillor Waterson.
Yes, I agree with what you've said, Chair. You know, the lack of communication again from Sunderland City Council it's quite saddening, really. But if we do go back, if something's going back, I want it to be constructive, and I want to put in the criticisms that we've mentioned tonight, and that's the fact that they've overdone it with the signage. The signage is poor. It's poor quality. What they should have gone for is the old sticky ones that are stuck onto the bins, or that are stuck onto something that can't be ripped off. If they have to do it at all. And I think they should simply be on the exits and the entrances to country parks, maybe 1 or 2 in the centre if you have to. But I really think they want to be looking at the environmental aspect of the posters they've put up and the wording. I'm very angry about that.
Okay, well,
I don't think it puts the area in a good light using language like that. It's not necessary.
No, you've made that point.
You know, I've made that point again.
Yes, you've made it quite strongly. Yeah. Could I suggest 2 things? We don't tell them what we want at this stage because we asked for a discussion so that we could agree on what we want. I suggested if you want to propose that we write to them and say we think they're terrible, etc., inappropriate, childish, or whatever the words you want to use, Council Waterson, if you'd like to make a proposal, and then say, well, you know, we look forward to having the discussion that we proposed back on the 14th of September about how we go forward on this to do the job properly. Don't tell them in this letter that this is what we want. I think it's a matter of, you know, that would be as presumptive as they have been, and I don't think we should be that presumptive. So do you want, shall we, if we're all in agreement, can we sort of formulate a proposal and move it on? Do we want to encapsulate Council Waterson's criticisms if everybody agrees on them?
Yeah, they were crude.
I beg your pardon, David?
I said they were crude, to say the least. The wording was crude.
Would you like to come to a formal wording with Clark, Council Waterson, on that?
Yes, I'm quite happy to. I think I think.
or can we
just-
agree? Can we agree it now, actually, so that it can go ahead to
yeah.
main count? It's got to go to main counts, obviously, on Monday. Town
Clerk's
clerk.
trying to come in. The clerk's
Town
wanting to come
clerk.
in.
Yeah, again, I've listened to the discussion here, and in particularly your summary, Councillor Alvin. I think the response to the City Council, based on what I've heard tonight, is around the perceived ineffectiveness of the message, the inappropriateness of the language used, the actual quality of the signage, and the effect it's having on the environment itself. And the follow-on aspect to that is around the need to understand the City Council's policy towards enforcement and to seek a planned programme of enforcement action in the district.
Isn't this man a genius?
Marvellous. He's a wordsmith.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'd like to propose the wording that the town clerk has
What he
made.
said.
Agreed. Yeah. I
Do you
second that.
second that by
I
Councillor
second
Waters?
that,
Anybody want to make
yes.
any amendments or comments before?
Chair, could I just add to that?
Yes, of course you can.
Could we ask for the enforcement team to give us updates on the
Yes.
fines that they're handing out in our area and what they're for?
Yeah. Mhm.
If there are any.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, Councillor Dodds. Yes, I think so. We have a proposal with the addition there by Councillor Dodds. I'll go around the screen. Councillor Harper, in favour. Councillor Waterson, Councillor Geddes, Councillor Geddes, Councillor Heron,
Okay.
Councillor Dodds.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Geddes, you've appeared. You agree? You're on mute, David. You're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute. You. We can't lip read. Is that yes?
I totally agree. My apologies.
Don't worry.
I thought I was talking to Councillor Waterson because I usually talk to myself, you know. But
Okay, fantastic. Moving on then. I've lost the, in all the excitement, I've lost the agenda. Where are we? Here we are. Oh, the Hetton Mini Park committee to consider next steps for initiating enhancements to the site.
May I just give you an update on this?
Absolutely, I was about to ask you to.
Right, sorry about that. If you recall, again, I think it was late autumn, I was tasked with writing to the Chief Executive of the City Council. And I don't want to get into the Christmas light debacle at this stage, but that was one of the aspects, and also about wider improvements and enhancements to the mini park. And I duly did so, and I got a response back. And it was then allocated to one of the heads of service, I think, to respond in a bit more detail. And this is an interesting one, because the response I got from the head of service simply referred me back to one of the senior officers, I think it was in landscape, who had previously had dialogue with, who said he couldn't do anything about it. So I'm afraid I've got nowhere fast with this one. I'm not quite sure how to navigate it, other to go back to the initial officer and say that I've been signposted to him by the chief executive and the head of service, and see what we get. But members may recall that the bottom line on this was, if we wanted to get the assistance of this particular officer, well, we're going to have to pay for it. It was on a semi-commercial basis, if I remember rightly, that the activities of this particular City Council department were self-financing through commercial activities. So I think I just need to go back to that officer and say, look, we've been signposted back to you. What can you do? What can you do? We had a range of thoughts and considerations about enhancements to the landscaping, and if I remember rightly, I pointed out to members that there were potentially several different aspects to the mini park, insofar as somebody dealt with hard landscape, somebody dealt with horticulture, somebody else dealt with arboriculture, somebody else dealt with lighting, and somebody else dealt with the likes of the fencing. So my whole intention was to try and get a single point of contact to try and coordinate and liaise with us. So that's the situation. I'm afraid we've come full circle. So I'm happy to take members' views on where
Yeah,
we go.
before I bring Councillor Hopper in, I think he was waving at me. I think it's important that we ascertain exactly what the plans are with the budget money that got allocated for the lighting, and we need, I believe, to be consulted on. I understand they're possibly going to change the lamp posts, and if they are, you know, are they going to put the lovely old Victorian ones back in, or are they going to put some horrible new concrete ones in? We need, I think, as well as doing what you're doing, Graham, we need to have an update on what their exact proposals are, to see, you know, to give our input, because they may be proposing to do something which we don't particularly like. So I would like to throw that into the mix, that we should get onto them as well as what Graham's doing before we can really consider doing a lot of other things. And of course, the other thing is the mending of the benches, the ones that we brought up at a previous meeting. They're still not been repaired and are dangerous. So I'd like to throw that into the mix. But I do think we need to know what they're proposing to do with the lighting to begin with. I think it was Hopper first, if you still want to talk, and then Councillor Geddes. Councillor Hopper?
Could you use my full title, please? Thank you very much, Chair.
Sir.
No, I remember when Councillor Watterson was asking, she was asking about this history walk. Was it the history walk where you put the discs in the floor?
A timeline.
Timeline. Yeah, whatever happened to that? Did that just, I think I must have missed some committee meetings or something, because it just seems to have never got anywhere.
No, I think, you know, as we say, the clerk's got it in hand. He's trying to talk to people, but nobody's talking to him. It's being passed from pillar to post.
But that's how I ended up talking to that Victoria yesterday.
Yeah, well, this is always the problem. So I think all he can do is try and bring it together before we can advance this anymore. And also, we need to know what their plans are for the lighting and when they're going to get the seats repaired. Sorry, Councillor Geddes, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, I mean, I find this incredible. I mean, I would love to know what the service level agreement in there is actually, because we've got seats that are now rusting because of lack of maintenance. We've got a metal fence round that God knows how long it is since that got painted, and that's going to have to be replaced if they don't get it painted. The lighting's another thing, which you've already alluded to, Councillor Elvin. And obviously we had the Christmas lights and the trees that, you know, for all intents and purposes, due to lack of maintenance, they've gone. You know, and again, I would say this, Sunderland City Council, Gentile and Sunderland City Council are not given Hetton the level of support that they deserve, and it's abysmal. I'm sorry for it. You know, I mean, I recall working for the council as a painter, and we had to paint the railings in the middle of Hetton every 3 years. You know, that was the programme. God knows when the last time that place saw a paintbrush. And again, Councillor Elvin, I would totally agree with you. We don't want a bog standard 5 metre pole putting up with just a light on. We want, again, I'll say this, if them poles had been maintained and painted properly, they wouldn't be in the state they're in. It's just lack of care and attention. That's me rant over.
So could we draw this together? Could we say that, you know, we're looking forward to, well, the town clerk needs to carry on pursuing this to find out who we're going to talk to, etc. Yeah. But in the meantime, all the things we've asked to be done are done. The ones that you've just mentioned, Councillor Geddes and I mentioned, and also we desperately need to be consulted on what they propose to do with the lighting. We don't want them just doing it without consulting us, because we requested it, and you know they've agreed, but we don't know what they're actually going to do. Councillor Dodds.
Yep, I think as a priority, the benches should be seen to. I mean, they're a safety issue, aren't they? And I can't understand why that hasn't been seen to before now. Are they owl benches, or did Sunderland adopt them?
Graham Cady.
If I can just clarify this, There are 2 bench seats in the mini park, which I understand the town council has paid for, and these were the World War I and II
One,
benches,
two.
and they're relatively recent. The
It's a
seats
lovely-
which were identified as being in a state of disrepair are not owned by us. It's city
Right.
council seats.
Okay. Well, I suggest we push them on that one and
Yeah.
we get them done as a matter of urgency.
Yep, this was all done before Councillor Dodds. So it's in all the minutes,
Yeah.
you know, we've asked. But I think if we can agree on that for the moment, that's about all we can agree on. But we do need to, again, to progress it. And if any of our city councillors can help us, or anybody can help us, I think it would be much appreciated.
Chair, as well, I think if we do identify a person who would be a useful contact, that maybe we should ask them to attend one of these meetings, and then
Absolutely.
we can put things
agreed.
forward to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So Town Clerk, more work for you, I'm afraid.
Can I quickly?
Councillor Waterson, yes, final
Yeah,
comment.
just quickly on this. Obviously, we did have our visits to the mini park as a group, and we did come up with a lot of ideas. Are we going to continue with that, or are we simply going to stop at the seats and the lighting?
Oh, no, we want to continue with it, but until we can find somebody to talk to and how to progress it, one person preferably, we're a bit stymied, you know. That's what the town clerk's trying to do.
So yeah, I think that's.
And as Councillor Dodds has just said, if we can identify that person, then we can bring him into the meeting,
yes.
and we can say, look, this is what we'd like to do. You know, how are we going to do it?
Yeah.
You know, how are we going to finance it? What are you going to permit us to do? But until we actually find somebody to talk to,
that's what we need. Yes, we need to identify.
We can't do anything else.
No, we need to identify the contact through the city before we can go ahead with anything.
Exactly. Town Clerk, have you got all that? Good. Fantastic.
No.
Well, thank you, everybody. A very good meeting, I think. We covered a lot. Thank you all for your time. And I look forward to seeing you all, is it on Monday?
Yeah.
And Councillor Harper, I look forward to talking to you in a few minutes' time.
It's good night for me.
Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks,
Good night.
councillors and members of the public. I'm stopping the recording now. Thank you.
Thank you.